Hello, everyone, and welcome to this video presentation on the BC Arts Council's Professional Development Program. We at the BC Arts Council carry out our work on the lands of Indigenous nations throughout what is colonially known as British Columbia, and we are grateful for the continuing relationships with Indigenous people in BC that develop through our work together. We offer gratitude to the Lekwungen people, known today as the Songhees and Esquimalt nations, on whose ancestral lands we operate our main offices and where Michelle and I are recording this presentation. My name is Clayton Baraniak. I'm a program advisor at the BC Arts Council, and I'm joined by my fellow program advisor, Michelle Benjamin. Together, we co-facilitate the professional development program, with Michelle taking the studio arts disciplines such as visual and media arts, literary arts, as well as museums and cultural centers. I take responsibility for the performing arts disciplines, including dance, theater, music, comedy, and interdisciplinary performing arts. But really, we work together very closely on this entire program intake, and we're both happy to advise you or redirect you to the appropriate person. In this presentation, we will offer information about the BC Arts Council's Extending Foundations Action Plan, accessibility programs, the Professional Development Program, and some grant writing tips too.
The BC Arts Council is the funding agency for the BC government. We support arts and culture activity in over 200 communities throughout BC. We are housed within the Ministry of Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sports, and our ministry is led by the Honourable Lana Popham. We were established by an act of legislation in 1995 for the purposes of providing support for arts and culture in BC, providing persons and organizations with the opportunity to participate in the arts and culture in British Columbia, and providing an open, accountable, and neutrally administered process for managing funds for British Columbia arts and culture. We're here to ensure that individual artists and arts and cultural organizations throughout the province are supported. We know how important the arts are to the health and well-being of people and communities. The British Columbia Arts Council funds a wide range of activities, projects, organizations, and individuals. For example, we support community arts programming in rural and urban centers. We provide money to individual artists, arts and culture workers, and arts and cultural practitioners to create new artistic work and to develop their professional skills. We also provide funding opportunities for professional performing arts companies, Indigenous artists and cultural organizations, art galleries, local museums, festivals, and community arts organizations. The work we do is guided by our new foundation strategic plan and our Extending Foundations Action Plan. The strategic plan prioritizes sustainability and creative development of the sector, increasing equity, diversity, and access throughout all of our programs and processes, support for Indigenous arts and culture, and support for regional arts and community arts. The Extending Foundations Action Plan places reconciliation, equity, diversity, inclusion, and access at the center of all of our work. These detailed plans are available on our website, and we encourage you to read them as they offer valuable insight into the work we do and the programs we offer.
In alignment with the Extending Foundations Action Plan, the BC Arts Council now offers 2 accessibility support programs. Individuals who self-identify as deaf or having a disability are eligible for the accessibility programs, which are Application Assistance, a program which pays for support services related to creating and submitting grant applications, registering for the online grant management system, and doing project updates or final reports. This program will allow you to hire someone of your choosing to help you with the application process. The Access Support Program provides additional funding to pay for accessibility costs associated with creating or developing a project funded by a BC Arts Council grant. You can include an access support request with your grant application submission, or request access support funding up to 90 days after you find out if you were successful. Some examples of the support you can request include ASL interpretation or translation, transcription or editing, support, or visual assistance, just to name a few. These programs do not provide funding for audience accessibility or day-to-day access costs outside of the scope of your project. Accessibility requests are confidential and will not be part of assessment panels evaluating grant applications. You can find out more about accessibility support programs at bcartscouncil.ca/accessibility. In alignment with the Extending Foundations Action Plan, we have integrated equity criteria across all of our funding programs, and consideration will be given to applicants who belong to a BCAC designated priority group. These groups have been identified in order to achieve our strategic direction commitments and to correct funding gaps illuminated through recent evaluations and consultations. The designated priority groups consist of applicants who are Indigenous, which includes First Nations, Métis, or Inuit people, applicants who are deaf or experience disability, Black or persons of color, or applicants located outside of Greater Vancouver or the Capital Region. For clarity, the Capital Region does not include the Gulf Islands or Souk, and Greater Vancouver does not include the Sunshine Coast, Chilliwack, or Abbotsford. To be eligible for the designated priority group strategic funding, you must complete the designated priority group's questionnaire as part of your profile within the grant management system. You are not obliged to disclose if you are from any of the designated priority groups, but if you feel comfortable, we encourage you to identify this in your profile. There is a reason you may receive priority.
Now we'll talk specifically about the Professional Development Program. Professional development is our only funding program for individual professional artists that supports learning, connections, and experiences that foster career and practice development, leading to future opportunities. This is not a program that supports creation. For that, you want the Individual Arts Awards. There are 3 professional development intakes in 2023. We advise you to submit your application through the online system in advance of those intakes closing, as after 5 p.m. our offices close and we cannot support any last-minute technical issues you might have. The Professional Development Program is open to individual applicants only and will not accept applications from organizations or collectives, just people. We'll get into more specifics now, and the full guidelines for the program can be found on our website. Be sure to give them a detailed read before you make your applications. Ineligible applications will not be forwarded to assessment.
Through this program, we provide grants to assist professional artists, cultural practitioners, production and technical personnel, and arts administrators with specific short-term learning activities to advance their practice or career. Activities should lead to clearly articulated learning or career outcomes, goals, or objectives. The primary intention of the program is learning for the individual. The program is not intended to support the creation of new work, and it is not meant to fund full-time studies. The program also does not support self-directed studies. The program does support short-term learning activities or professional development opportunities like mentorships. The maximum request is $7,500, and that can be 100% of the request budget. In fact, we don't even ask about other revenues. We just want to know how you want to spend the funding you request, up to $7,500. You can only submit 1 application per intake. You can receive only 1 award per BC Arts Council fiscal year, which is April to March annually. If you are successful in the first intake, don't apply again until the next fiscal year.
Before you spend time crafting an application, you want to be sure that you are eligible to apply and receive funding through this program. I will walk you through the eligibility considerations in 2 parts: who can be funded and what can be funded. And we'll start with who. Assistance through this program is available to individuals only. That means that organizations are not eligible to apply. Groups or collectives wishing to engage in learning activities together are eligible. However, everyone in the group must apply separately and be eligible. To be eligible, an applicant must be a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident, Be considered a professional artist, and to fit that criteria, you must have completed training in your discipline at a level that is recognized as professional by other practitioners working in similar disciplines. Training can be widely defined and may be through post secondary institutions or traditional knowledge transfer or apprenticeship with a qualified practitioner. You must also have a minimum 2 years of professional practice in your field following your basic training. And by professional practice, we mean that you have been paid for your work. You must also meet the minimum requirements for BC Arts Council's Professional Artist Awards in your specific practice and have received industry standard payments for that work. You must have submitted any overdue final reports for any previous BC Arts Council grants. If you have an outstanding overdue report, the online system will not allow you to submit your application. You are also eligible if you have received at least one grant through the First Peoples Cultural Council's Indigenous Arts Program and have submitted any outstanding final reports for that grant.
Professional development will support a wide variety of professional arts and cultural practitioners, including performing artists such as musicians, dancers, theater artists, visual, contemporary, or craft artists, visual arts critics or curators, media artists, creative writers, spoken word artists, arts administrators, publishers, producers, artistic support staff like dramaturgs, deaf, disability, and mad arts practitioners, community engaged arts practices, multi and interdisciplinary practitioners, museum or Indigenous cultural center professionals, production and technical personnel, and artists whose practice includes training professional arts practitioners. This list of eligible disciplines is in the guidelines, and it indicates the discipline or practice-specific requirements for you to be eligible to apply. The arts take a village, and we know there are many varieties of arts professionals out there. So if you don't see yourself on this screen or in the guidelines, and you have 2 or more years of professional practice, and you want to be sure that you're eligible, just call or email Michelle or I.
Here are some examples of the activities that the professional development program will support. A course or a workshop. This may include master classes or private studies with a specific focus. Online courses are eligible if registration is required, live instruction or mentorship is provided, and classes follow a schedule. Self-directed online learning is not eligible. Mentorships are eligible. This is an individual, structured relationship with a qualified professional or a group of professionals. And finally, learning residency. A learning residency must include structured skill development or knowledge exchange. It will not support creation activities, research, and residencies specifically geared towards creation. It will not support self-directed learning or residencies without significant opportunities for knowledge transfer. Full-time studies will not be supported, and general travel, as in travel to auditions or audition tours, or travel solely for the purposes of attending annual general meetings or conferences, or travel to present your work at marketplaces or showcases where fees are not paid. You should visit the BC Arts Council website to see our other programs that specifically do support travel, touring, or art circulation. It's important for you to understand that there are many kinds of expenses and activities that will not be funded. We don't want you to spend time and energy on an application for an ineligible activity. Please review the list of ineligible expenses in the guidelines.
I'm going to talk about the kinds of expenses and costs that you can apply for. Grants are available to support subsistence expenses to a maximum of $750 per week for full-time activities. This is intended to support basic living costs when you're devoting most of your time to the learning activity. For part-time activities, the weekly subsistence rate should be prorated accordingly, and weeks do not need to be consecutive. The program will also support travel expenses, accommodation, and meal per diems for professional development activities outside of your region. Travel expenses may be for yourself or for a mentor, advisor, or instructor. The maximum meal per diem is $65 per day. Expense details must be provided in the budget for these items. It'll also support consumable supplies and the costs of materials directly related to the learning activities, including software subscriptions. It'll support the rental or lease of specialized equipment, fees paid to your mentors, instructors, advisors, to elders and traditional knowledge keepers, course, workshop, or learning residency registration fees, childcare costs associated with time off for classes or learning activities, rental of venues or studios required for learning activities, and accessibility services like ASL personal support workers or equipment rentals related to access needs of mentors or advisors during your project activities. However, as I mentioned, if you identify as deaf or having a disability, you may request additional funding for access support expenses like interpretation, support workers, transcription, or specialized equipment for accessibility purposes. Review the Access Support Program guidelines prior to requesting funds at bcartscouncil.ca/accessibility. And remember to review the list of ineligible expenses in the Professional Development Program guidelines as well. When you go to complete the application, you'll note there are a number of questions with relatively small word counts. The intention of this is for you to be really specific about certain aspects of your activity in different questions. So pay attention to what is being asked. Some of the things you'll need to consider or provide are a precise description of the proposed activity or event, your specific learning or career goals, and a summary of how this activity will impact you and the development of your practice or future opportunities, a work plan, timeline, or itinerary, or a schedule that includes significant milestones. If your activity or learning will provide direct benefit to an organization that you are employed by, discuss the ways in which the organization is supporting the project, for example, with time off from work, financial support. A statement about community benefit describing how this project will benefit your identified communities is also required. And the professional development expense form is where you will tally up your expenses up to $7,500. No other revenues are needed. Just let us know how much you're spending. And finally, support materials, which we will discuss in the next slide. We also have another information session presentation that reviews the application questions and assessment criteria in great detail, which is available on the Professional Development Program page on our website, bcartscouncil.ca. Michelle and I also regularly schedule live question and answer chats online, which you can also find listed on the program page on our website.
So, support material. All applicants must provide either your CV or resume and include your professional training and relevant professional credits in that document. You will also need to provide confirmation of any arrangements or agreements, including documentation from the institution, teacher, mentor, master advisor, as applicable. We also ask for a resume or bio for your advisors or mentors so that their suitability for the activity can be easily determined. The application is not assessed based on artistic merit, but on the impact of the learning opportunity. You do not need to provide portfolio material. So in order to apply, you need to create an individual profile in the BC Arts Council's online grant system. All personal grants are managed through this profile. You apply here, receive your communications here, and file your final reports. This needs to be separate from any organization profile if you are already in the system affiliated with an organization. You must have your own profile. Register now if you haven't already. It can take up to 5 days to process new registrations, and you can't start your application until it's set up. If you do already have a profile in our system, ensure that your contact info is current. We would hate to send a check to an old address. Have you completed the Designated Priority Groups tab? You must complete this tab if you want to be considered for priority funding. Finally, you should add no reply at bcartscouncil.ca to your contacts or safe senders list so that notifications don't end up in your spam filter or your junk folder.
Merit-based independent peer assessment is the primary method of evaluation for all applications to the Professional Development Program. Independent assessors, so not me or Michelle, consider the merit of all applications based on the assessment criteria in the guidelines. The professional development panel will be made up of 3 or 4 individuals from different fields of practice with broad professional knowledge, experience, geographic representation, diverse cultural viewpoints, including Indigenous viewpoints. Assessment panels change from intake to intake, so if you have applied before, it's very likely a different group will be assessing your application this time around. Within the peer assessment process, our peer assessors read the applications, all of them, score the applications individually against the assessment criteria. Then they meet together as a group and discuss each application one after another. And finally, they rank them based on merit and against the assessment criteria. For context, about 30% of eligible applications get funded across all of our programs. Spending time ensuring your application will be well received, easily understood, and competitive against other applications is time well spent. We encourage you to review the assessment criteria for this program, which can be found on the program guidelines, page 7 and 8. Assessment criteria are designed to speak to the diversity of ways applicants throughout the province can be achieving and contributing. The areas of assessment are given different weight, which you can see here on the screen. Each of the parts of the criteria are detailed in the program guidelines, so please read them through and consider the points under each criteria when you're responding to the application questions. We have even added subheadings into the application itself, so you can tell which questions relate specifically to certain parts of the assessment criteria. You can also check out our other resource video that will help to connect the assessment criteria directly to the questions in the application. You'll find a link to that on video on the program webpage. The BC Arts Council informs each applicant of the results of their application no later than 16 weeks after the submission deadline. Notification is sent to the email address registered with your profile. Unfortunately, results cannot be requested in advance. Contact a program advisor for feedback on the assessment of your application once the notifications have been released.
We hope this overview of the professional development program has been helpful. Before we leave you, we wanted to offer a few tips for setting you up for success when approaching a grant application.
Writing a grant is like telling your own story. Most people are pretty good at the what, the how, who, where, when, all very important things. However, what the assessors really want to know is why this will have an impact on your career. Why is key. Articulate in your application, why am I doing this? Why is it important for my career as a professional? And why is it important right now? Talking about the impact on you and your career and your community is often the most compelling piece that engages the assessors, brings the application to life in their imagination, and makes them excited about your project over other projects. Articulating how you will achieve your project can also be a great exercise to help you organize your thoughts and establish a timeline, work plan, or budget for your project.
I'll just go over some of the application tips. If you are not already registered in our online system, do this right away. Draft your application early, put it aside, and come back with fresh eyes. Remember that for this program, not every assessor will have experience or expertise in your area of practice. So keep that audience in mind as you answer the application questions and choose your language accordingly. Remember that we, me and Clayton, are not are program advisors. We are not assessors. We don't assess your application. So while you may have explained something to us in an email or over the phone, all the assessors have to go on is your application. You should articulate your rationale and reasoning clearly in your application, regardless if you have already discussed it with us. We suggest that you have someone who doesn't know anything about your project read through the application. Do they understand what you are doing and why you are doing it? Can they explain the project back to you? Read and follow the guidelines and keep assessment criteria in mind as you go. Only include support material that is requested or relevant. In general, point form or short paragraphs are completely fine. Also, make sure you are answering the questions being asked in the application. It's surprising how often folks lose sight of this as they make their way through the application. And of course, call us if you have any questions.
Thank you for your interest in our programs. Please reach out if you have any questions and follow our social media channels to stay up to date on all of our news and programs. Our main phone line is 250-356-1718, and this is the main line for the BC Arts Council. You can ask whoever answers the phone your question, and if they don't know the answer, they will connect you with someone who does. You can also find us online at bcartscouncil.ca. We are on Facebook and Twitter.
Thanks, everyone. I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you.